All right, welcome everyone. I see a bunch of you coming in right now as we get started. My name is Claire Carmody, and I'm the Director of Marketing at AirSage. For over 20 years, AirSage has provided the most comprehensive human movement analytics on the market. We collect and analyze real-time mobile signals, GPS, and other mobility data to produce and process billions of anonymous data points daily. This enables us to deliver unmatched scale and accuracy to our customers. So today, as you know, we are co-hosting this webinar with Quality Counts, and we will be talking about how to elevate safety analysis with near-miss video processing and CV data. This will be presented by our Director of Transportation Solutions, Chris Wishman, who you may know already, and then also Quality Counts Director of Business Development, Stephen Hollenkamp. Just a little housekeeping, this session will be recorded, and we'll be sending this out after the webinar, probably tomorrow, to all of the attendees. So just keep that in mind. And then also, if you have any questions throughout, please hold them till the end. We will be having a 10-minute Q&A. You can just kind of drop them in the Q&A control panel in the bottom of your Zoom screen, and they'll kind of be held there until the end when we get to them. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and introduce Stephen and Chris. So first, we have Chris Wishman, Director of Transportation Solutions at AirSage. For more than 10 years, he's been in the transportation planning space. He's the former Virginia Department of Transportation planner, and he also holds a Master's of Urban Planning from the University of Kansas. And then on the right side, we have Stephen Hollenkamp, who's the Director of Business Development at Quality Counts. Drawing from his BA undergraduate degree in finance and dual Masters of Public Policy and Administration from Columbia University, Stephen's work has led him to consulting governments and civil society groups to optimize their budgeting action strategies. Stephen is a member of the advisory committee for the Hillsborough County MPO, a founding member of the creative arts nonprofit Make Plant City in Plant City, Florida. All right, so that is Stephen and Chris. Our agenda today is listed on the right. So first, we'll kind of start about a little background about AirSage, and then Chris will move into more about CV data and specifically safety events data, which we provide. Then we'll pass it over to Stephen, who can kind of delve into near-miss video processing, and he'll get kind of into the details of that. And then we'll kind of join back together at the end to talk about kind of the combination of the two can enhance your safety analysis. And of course, we'll end with the 10-minute Q&A. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Chris.
Excellent. Thank you, Claire. And hello, everyone on the call. It's a pleasure to be with you all today and to discuss safety-related data and really dive into the use cases for both vehicle event and near-miss data. So just briefly before we get into it, to introduce AirSage. As Claire mentioned, we've been serving public agencies and consulting clients in the transportation market for over 20 years now as the pioneer in mobility data. So our longevity really owes itself to our base of recurring and repeat happy clients who continue coming back to us even in an increasingly crowded mobility data marketplace. So in this crowded marketplace, why choose AirSage? So first, our recurring clients know that we're data focused. So our expertise is really in sourcing mobile device and vehicle GPS data, and then cleansing to a representative sample and producing our products, which really help our end users find signal in the noise. Big data is big, it's messy, it's ever changing. So as trusted advisors, we work with our clients to leverage mobility data to solve specific problems or applications of the end users. Second, a key differentiator for us is our offering of empirical or nearer to observed data. For instance, with vehicle events that we'll be talking a lot about today, we provide a point-based data set for hard braking that's conflated to our client's preferred roadway network. The idea here is to provide deliverables off-platform in very simple, easy-to-use CSV file formats that allow our clients to work with the data in their own offline tools, whether that be GIS or statistical packages. So finally, we leverage our experience in transportation to really create customized solutions for our clients, and I'll highlight a few of those in our presentation today. And at the same time, we have an emphasis on ensuring that our products protect personally identifiable information, really to safeguard both consumer data as well as safeguard the agencies who are working with our deliverables. So this slide really sets the stage for why we're all here today and what we'll be discussing. So we've noticed a lot of interest, from clients that we're interacting with, both in the vehicle trajectory and events data that AirSage offers, but we're often getting questions about near miss data and whether vehicle derived data qualifies as near miss data. So today, really the objective is to clarify each data source and really emphasize the complementary nature of vehicle data and the near miss data that Stephen will talk a lot more about, and really show how they can be used together to enhance safety analysis. So what is the difference between the two? Vehicle event data from AirSage is passively collected. So the hardware for vehicle event data is installed within the vehicles. The vehicles themselves are the probes. So this means our data collection requires no hardware be installed in the field, which makes our solution highly scalable, both spatially. So think about coverage of an entire network in a region or even larger study area. And also scalable temporally. We have the ability to go back in time and look at historical data. However, it's important to note that with vehicle-based data, it really provides little to no context of the surrounding environment or the specific causes of a heartbreaking event. So true near miss data, on the other hand, which Stephen will talk about in a lot more detail than I will, really offers rich granularity and insights into conflicts and their causes. So this data does require some sort of video camera for data collection, whether that be existing agency hardware that's collecting footage and being processed, or short-term installations of cameras at specific locations. So this approach does limit some of the scalability over a larger network, but it does provide really unparalleled diagnostic capabilities for the specific locations. So in summary, these two data sources are complementary, but they're not synonymous, which we're finding sometimes they're being discussed or viewed as being synonymous. But we're here today to talk about the ways they can be used together in a complementary fashion, but aren't necessarily a direct replacement for one another. So before we dive deeper into characterizing the vehicle event data, I'm going to hand it back to Claire just to administer a quick poll of the audience.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and submit a poll for you guys. We really just kind of want to get, we just kind of want to get like an idea of, what your, here we go, sorry, of kind of what your kind of previous knowledge of safety events has been, so that we can kind of hone what our explanation is to you guys. So let me go and launch that now. We'll kind of give you a couple minutes to respond, and then we can jump back in. All right, looking good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end, and then I will share the results so we can all kind of see where everybody stands in the audience today.
Excellent.
All right.
All right. So it looks like the majority of respondents are somewhat familiar, which makes my job a little bit easier. But I'll dive now into characterizing vehicle event data and how we're viewing essentially the use cases or applications of this type of data. One thing to mention at the outset here is we're really excited about this data source. As a transportation planner myself, this is new, it's emerging. We're all trying to understand it and how we can be using it. So first of all, what is vehicle event data? So hard braking, hard acceleration, or hard cornering data of this nature is derived from an onboard electronic control unit within the vehicle or some other hardware that's installed within the vehicle. So these systems are constantly measuring the acceleration, speed, and G-force conditions of the vehicle. So simply put here, the definition of a vehicle event is when a threshold for a G-force change is met over some time parameter. For example, a threshold might be a change in 0.25 G over 1 second. That may be the threshold. And when this threshold is reached by the vehicle, it triggers the collection of a data record at that time of the event and stores that along with the GPS coordinate, timestamp, the vehicle speed, and G-force at the time of the event. So that's the underlying, source of the observation of this data set. In terms of how we work with this data or how we provide products or deliverables to our clients, we're displaying here a simplified schema of vehicle event data with specific segment IDs that AirSage would go through the process of conflating the events to the client's preferred roadway network. So the inclusion of these unique IDs really allows the end users, agencies or consultants, to perform really quick, efficient frequency analysis. So for example, what segments or intersections are experiencing a lot of hard braking events, and how does that correlate to the crash data or other roadway characteristics, such as traffic volumes, really any roadway characteristics data that is assigned to the network. So in addition here to event type, our output also includes the vehicle speed reading and G-force reading at the time of the event. So this really empowers the end user to understand and filter to sort of a magnitude measure. A good example here would be event ID number 4 in the table, which is a hard braking event at 76 miles per hour. So depending on the context of this particular location, this may be a riskier or more meaningful event than some of the lower speed events that are also shown in the table here. You'll see a link here at the bottom of the slide. You can access a sample data set for vehicle events on our website. For those interested, again, the link is provided here. So as I mentioned earlier, AirSage delivers vehicle events as a CSV file off platform, offering flexibility for detailed analysis. So one of the common application that we're seeing is really, network level screening or as an input into identifying high risk networks for SS4A safety action plans. That's one of the, use cases or applications that folks are interested in this data for. You can layer this data onto traditional data sources such as crash data, but in some cases, really what would be helpful is where you have locations of lots of events, but not necessarily the crashes, to give you some new lens to identify where you have risk on the network that may not be borne out in the outcome based analysis that really our crash analysis has been. So moving into more of the diagnostic capabilities, what insights can we gain when we zoom in on specific locations and look at events data? So we did a test pilot with the C2 Smarter Center at New York University over the winter to analyze some sample data we provided in a regional study area in Ontario, Canada. So the team at NYU explored the practical applications of events data, focusing really on the use as a diagnostic tool. So initially they examined the network level, the macro level to identify corridors or intersection with a notable frequency of events, and then really started to zoom in on specific locations down to the intersection level to evaluate what underlying factors may be at play here. For instance, they observed frequent hard braking events at intersections or off-ramp approaches and began analyzing, what may be causing this set of driver behavior that we're seeing here. So this approach is really helping to identify trends in driver behavior at specific locations and can aid in developing targeted countermeasures, again, at the network level, but down to individual or discrete intersections or sets of intersections. So this slide highlights a few of the ongoing or recently completed studies where AirSage vehicle event data is being used. The notable example to highlight here is Corridor Safety Project in the city of Baltimore, which really highlights the level of customization that AirSage can provide this product. So for this study, the objective was to analyze driver behavior in proximity to newly installed video enforcement and speed cameras. So AirSage provided a data set, in this case, with a custom attribute that measured the distance in meters of our vehicle speed and vehicle event readings to the fixed locations of the enforcement camera and enforcement signage or enforcement ahead signage locations. So what this really allowed the end users to do was expedite their analytic process, really saved a lot of time and resources for the end users at the agency and the consulting firm by not having to go through that sort of post-processing of the data. They were able to work with us in advance to develop a product that was really going to suit their needs and save them time and money. So just briefly, I've done a lot to emphasize that a key differentiator for us is empowering end users by providing off-platform or data-only solutions. But it is important for me to note that we at AirSage do offer a safety analysis module within our AirSage transportation platform. So this module provides a real user-friendly interface for querying, filtering, or visualizing event or vehicle trajectory data within a platform experience. But it still allows for the end users to download a CSV file and work within other tools, as mentioned earlier. So finally, my wrap-up slide is really just to reemphasize, this is an emerging capability we have to leverage a new data set with vehicle events being a proxy for driver behavior and risk on the network. And with this, we can go beyond kind of our traditional data sources that are, all focused on outcomes or other, simply the roadway characteristics, traffic volumes, providing really a new dimension in how we're doing safety analysis that hopefully will lead to some more predictive capabilities. And ultimately, the goal here for all safety planning, safety analysis is to recommend or have more effective countermeasures or interventions added to the network. So with that, I'll hand it back to Claire for another quick poll, and then we'll get into Stephen's presentation.
All right. Yeah, so we have one last poll for this section of the webinar. So I will submit that now. And basically, it's just we want to know if you'd like to kind of learn more a little about safety events. As you all answered, about of you somewhat know about it. So if you'd like more information, let us know, and we can follow up with you separately. Okay. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. All right, so ending that poll now. All right, and then we'll pass it over to Stephen.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to take it over.
All right, thank you, Claire. Thank you, Chris. So once you know the locations where you have safety problems, by using AirSage, you can use near-miss data to help you understand the extent of those problems and fully dive in. And so I'll start by just showing an example, because these videos, I'm going to show you a bunch of videos of near misses, and this is the most probably exciting part of my portion of this presentation. But yeah. Whoop. These were all done for projects we've done this year. There's a little spin move juke. That was post-construction of a new median that caused a safety problem. This is in New York at a Hasidic Jewish community where they've got some pedestrian safety issues. And boom, that is not a near miss. That is a direct hit. But that is the point of of near misses and near miss data is to help you identify where you have safety problems. So I'm Steven. I work with Quality Counts. We do 1 million turning movement counts, and when we do them, we process through an AI. So this is what our AI sees when it sees video footage. So I'm going to lay out how we collect our near miss data, just to give you an overview on how that works. And I'm going to show you, I'll tell you some instances when I think near miss is less useful, and then 3 instances when it is useful, with an example of a project we did for Florida DOT, another project we did for Georgia DOT, and another project we did in Lee County, Florida. But yeah, so our AI turns video footage into a bunch of blue lines of the video of the cars and the pedestrians and the cyclists. We set up cameras. Cameras go 22 feet in the air. It's just like, we're a data collection company, so it's just like any turning movement count you've ever gotten. We set up a camera 24 hours later or 48 hours later, we'll pull it down. We upload the footage to our cloud platform. And then there is a quality control process to create a accurate turning movement count. And while that's happening, the AI is also identifying when trajectories intersect. For instance, these two. It identifies the crossing point of those 2 trajectories, in this case about right here. And then it identifies the timestamp of the first car crossing that point, and then the timestamp of the second car crossing that point. And the difference between the timestamps is how it's called post-encroachment time, or PET, but that's the foundational metric in the world of near miss. And there are others. And so a post-encroachment time of 0 seconds, that would basically be a crash. Post-encroachment time of a half a second would be a scary near miss. And 2 seconds would be less scary, but if it's happening in a pattern, that's still useful safety data. Okay, so yeah, so when is near miss not useful? I think is a nice starting place to just, there's this big world of safety, and where I think it's less useful is in basically, when you have a standard roadway geometry and you've seen it 1 million times, then you can look at the geometry, and if you do a lot of safety work, you can know what the safety problems are. And then you can look at the crash data, validate your hunches, put together your CMFs and your cost benefit analysis. And from there, what does near miss really add? Not a lot, not unless you're getting pushback from the client. And so that's one instance when I think, like, this is not something that you just do everywhere all the time. Also, 4-way stop signs, there's just a lot of near misses. So cars come close to each other, they do a little capoeira dance, but the near miss data is not going to correlate with crash data likely. So when we do near misses at 4-way stop signs, we only look at cars running the stop signs. Another case would be roundabouts, where you're going to have a whole lot of near misses, where so don't be alarmed if you see a lot of near misses at roundabouts. Think what specifically is the problem you're looking for, and then see if the near miss data is validating that. Now, where is near miss data useful? I'll tell you 3 cases that we're seeing a lot of interest and orders from. The first one is unique intersections, where your standard rules of thumb may not apply, and CMFs may not apply perfectly. A second one is when you're dealing with bike ped projects and bike ped safety projects, because you just don't have good bike ped data. You got a crash here or a anecdotal complaint there, and that's one reason AirSage's ability to tell you where people are biking and walking is useful. And so, but yeah, there's just not a lot of crash data, and so we're getting a lot of interest there. And then the third one is community and stakeholder engagement. When you know what the problem is, and it's slowing down the cars, adding LPIs, protecting the lefts, all of those things may have a negative impact on congestion, and you may get pushback from a client or an agency. Near miss can be having video clips can be a nice way to galvanize support. And so I'm going to show you an example of each of these, an FDOT project for unique intersections. That's where we'll start. So we did 5 locations for Florida DOT T7. This is in the St. Pete area. All 5 locations were unique in some way. I'll show you one, Park and 40th in St. Pete. It's got this median here that is separating the three through lanes. And this median has ballard spikes sticking up down for 100 yards. And so that's causing several problems. One problem is if cars in the bottom two lanes want to turn into this business here, they got to get over and slam on the brakes and turn, all whilst there's this lane of traffic they're cutting into that's going much faster than them. The other is the eastbound lefts, who may not know there's a lane of traffic on the other side of this median. If they do see the cars, they misjudge how fast they're going. And so I'm going to pull up the report for this location. We set up 3 cameras. We filmed for 24 hours. The report looks like this. And so these reports, they're Excel files with 3 tabs. The first tab is a summary file, or a little summary tab. So we've got our 5 locations here. We filmed for 24 hours. You can see the conflicts at 3 different time thresholds, 1.5 seconds or less, 2 seconds or less, 3 seconds or less. And this is over that 24-hour period. And then you can see the breakdown by vehicle to vehicle conflicts, head to vehicle conflicts, the bike to vehicle conflicts, and then the conflict rate. And so this is a situation where you would not want to compare these 5 different locations because they're completely different designs, completely different volumes. And so this isn't a situation where you say, you know, this bottom one, Park and 40th, looks fine. It's really site dependent. So to understand and investigate Park and 40th here, we just click it and it pulls us through the full details on each near miss event. So first we see a chart that's basically the same data we saw on the first tab. We got video links to see the 2 1.5 second near misses or the 45 3-second near misses, and we'll watch the video for the 2-second near misses. Below that, we get a summary table of all of the different conflict types. So there were 45 total near misses under 3 seconds. 16 of them were eastbound lefts and westbound throughs, which was one of the concerns FDOT had, these eastbound lefts and then the westbound throughs. The eastbound lefts crossed in front of the westbound throughs. You know that because it's in the first column. So first column crossed first. And then of the 16, it was about 9% of the total eastbound lefts for the day. So there were 179 eastbound lefts in this 24-hour period. 9% had a westbound through coming in right after them, which is a high number. And this percentage was useful for FDOT to put into context. What does 16 mean? Is that number high or low? Below that, we can see the details on each near miss. So we start with our pedestrian near misses. We can see for each what the pedestrian was doing, what the car was doing, the class, the post-encroachment time, the time of day. We can see our bike near misses, and we can see our vehicle to vehicle near misses. And I'll pull up the video for this one. I'll lay the stage here first. So this is that median. So we're seeing one of the 3 cameras. The way our system works is it processes the 24 hours from the 3 cameras we set up. It then identifies all the near misses and it removes duplicates because all 3 cameras will see the same near misses often. Removes duplicates and takes the little video clips and pushes them all together, puts on the screen 2 trajectory lines of the objects that conflicted so that you know where to look. This first one, we got a guy on a bike that is on the inside of the median. That is a separate safety issue, but he's going to come up and cross, and then you'll see a car come underneath. This up here is that business I was talking about. So imagine if Black Car wanted to go to that business, it would be difficult. But I'll just play the video and you'll see. You can see these throughs having to slow down because they're going super fast. This is one of the other camera angles. We got an upset pedestrian. Here we got a jaywalker. These video clips are just so interesting. Okay, so this is, now we're to the nighttime near misses. And then this is the last one. This is a bike or an e-bike that appears to be kind of coming up the wrong way here. So yeah, that's how these videos work. So when we showed this to Florida DOT, this 3 safety contract primes were in the room, and overall they said, okay, the 16 eastbound lefts, 9% of them had a conflict. This is the issue to prioritize. They asked, when were these happening? We scrolled down, highlighted the 16 eastbound lefts and westbound throughs. And when you look at the event time, they were almost all happening in the off peak. 15 of the 16 were in the off peak. So FDOT's going to protect these lefts. All right, next example, Georgia DOT, we did an RSA. They had this corridor where they had some anecdotal complaints. This is a bike ped safety issue. They had some anecdotal complaints. They had some bike ped, historic data, but not a lot. And so they didn't really know what to do or where to do it. So we set up cameras up and down at 20 locations. At each of these locations, we set up 2 or 3 cameras. So we blanketed this corridor with 50 cameras filmed for 24 hours. The video or the report for this one is here. So we can see all of our locations filmed for 24 hours, and we can see all the data. Now, this is an instance when you could compare these different locations to each other because they're all on SR38 and they all were done on the same day with roughly the same through volume. So they're pretty apples to apples. When you analyze all this, Pine Street stuck out to GDOT and Atkins, the safety prime. And it stuck out because there were 7 1.5-second pedestrian near misses. This was the most. This location had the most. It also had the most 2-second pedestrian near misses, a lot of 3-second, a lot of bike. I'll pull up the video for this one. And I'll just play this while I explain it. So this whole corridor is 2 lanes in each direction with a center lane for turning. And this was filmed about 2 months ago. And through this video, what you see is just a lot of bikes and pedestrians struggling a little bit to get across and get to a Crystal Burger, a fast food chain. These were all done on a Tuesday in a 24-hour period. We're at about 11 a.m. now. You see a lot of bikes and pedestrians using that center lane as a refuge to hang out, but it's not a refuge, it's a turn lane. That guy got brushed. You'll see it again here. Yeah, wild. So GDOT is still in the process of figuring out what they're going to do, but at 2 of the 20 locations where we set up cameras, they're putting in something, a RRFB, a crosswalk with a pedestrian hybrid beacon light, something, and they're still figuring that out. But this gave them statistical data, which they needed for one of their HSIP funding requirements, but it also just helped them prioritize and do an honest review of what needs to be done where. Once we're done and they deploy their countermeasures, they'll do this analysis again so they can do a before and after analysis and see if it worked. Okay, so I'll stop the video there and I'll hop on to the next one, or the last one. So the last one's Lee County, Florida. This was a location where Stantec was the prime. They knew the problem. They knew what needed to be done. There's a whole lot of crashes. They wanted to do LPIs. They wanted to protect the lefts and they wanted to slow down traffic. But they were getting pushback from the citizens that this yin and yang between safety and congestion, is it a big enough safety problem for us to slow down traffic? That was their concern. So the engineer wanted some video evidence of the problem. And so I'll play this video here. So there were so many. I just selected a few to show you. A lot of the clips had aggressive, or I'll say ambitious, left turners shooting across with a fast approaching through like that. There was also a lot of clips of pedestrians and cyclists struggling to get across, or just a little bit uncomfortable getting across, like that one. This was a straight up crash. I'm not even sure what happened here. We filmed for 48 hours at 5 locations and we got 2 crashes. Here's the other crash. The interesting thing here, you can kind of see what happens. We got white car coming through, making a left, the green squiggle, we got brown squiggle coming down, and this white SUV in the middle kind of blocks their view. So White Explorer SUV lets this guy go, and then brown squiggle sees SUV slowing down, and he's like, "Whatever, sucker, I'm going through," and then he doesn't see the white car come in. This one is similar. This is the sort of thing that is easier to explain with video. We got this car turning left, and he just doesn't quite see this little short hatchback over the roofs of the 3 cars in front that are turning left and blocking much of his line of sight. And so he thinks he's got time. He shoots the gap, and then little white SUV slows down at the last second. So those are my 3 examples, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, I'll hand it back to Claire to take any questions you guys may have.
I guess, thank you, Stephen. Prior to jumping over to Claire, I'll just wrap up briefly on kind of tie it all together. But yeah, Stephen, thanks for sharing the videos and those great examples. And I'm sure we'll have some questions about those. But Claire, if you could share the slide deck again. So really, the key takeaway here of the whole webinar and why we're here is to demonstrate that passively collected vehicle data, probe vehicle data and ground truth data, like Stephen was just showing us, are complementary data sets. They can be leveraged together to really elevate safety analysis by using this broader tool at the network level to really hone in and zoom in on where you need to diagnose issues in the way that Stephen demonstrated. So in recognition of the complementary nature of AirSage data and Quality Counts' offerings, we're actively exploring, Stephen and I, opportunities to help serve each other's clients with kind of combined solutions. So what would this look like for AirSage's clients? What we've discussed is those clients we have purchasing vehicle trajectory data or events data, we can add a fixed number of intersections or mid-block locations for Quality Counts to go out and perform these near-miss evaluations at a reduced cost and all under a single purchase order. Similarly, for folks working with Quality Counts is clients interested in bringing in vehicle event data to either help screen or identify the locations to go out and evaluate near miss. We've provided some simplified pricing for Stephen to evaluate or present to his clients as a kind of line item to include in purchase orders for Quality Counts as clients. So we're hopeful that this integrated offering can really serve both of our clients better and provide more comprehensive solutions and really streamline purchasing of each other's solutions. So with that, just wanted to put up our contact information for Stephen and I and kick it back to Claire, who will, I think, administer one final poll and jump into Q&A.
That's right. Yeah, we do have one last poll. So we'd like to kind of gauge your interest, whether it's in AirSage CB data or it's in video, Quality Counts, video processing, or both. So let me go ahead and launch that poll and you can let us know kind of what you're most interested in at the moment. Right. Excellent. And also next, we will have some time for Q&A. We did have some questions kind of come in throughout the presentation. So we'll start with those, but please go ahead and put your questions in now if you have them, and we'll see if we can get to them in the time allotted. So, all right. Thank you everybody for your answers. We'll end the poll now. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and start with questions. So the first question that came in was, which data are available via an API to integrate into existing analysis tools, dashboards, interactive maps that already include other data layers for aggregation? and performance monitoring web pages?
Yeah, I can address that first. So we open every conversation with a potential client with an open mind. We realize that every agency, may have their own set of tools they're already working with. So again, I think our goal is always to provide maximum flexibility in how we're delivering the data, whether that be simply sending you a CSV file one time, or we have some clients where we're delivering on a recurring basis via API, or an Amazon S3 bucket or something like that. So I would say on our end, we're flexible in how we're providing data and how it can be ingested directly into existing tools. And Stephen, if you have anything to add on how you all deliver your data.
Yeah, so we're a data collection firm, so we deliver our turning room accounts in PDFs and Excels, and we provide access to the videos. And then the near miss report we deliver as well in the Excel that you saw with video links in the files that take you to Dropbox.
Excellent. All right. Next question we have, it's about representation. Which percentage of the overall general public fleet are included in AirSage data in each state and region?
Yeah, so I often frame it as when I talk about vehicle events data, we're sort of early on in our ability to work with this data. As more and more of the fleet on the roadways is connected, more and more data will become available to us. So right now, in most, I guess the general answer across all study areas would be low single digit percentages of the overall fleet is represented in our data. So that can vary a little bit by the specific geography, whether it's urban, rural. Some states may have higher fleet penetration than others. So as far as a general answer for all study areas, I would say low single digits is kind of the safe answer.
Next is, how do you access the information from the vehicles? In parentheses, harsh braking, etc. And how reliable is it?
Yeah, so as far as reliability, I guess there you're getting into the actual hardware and how good of a job the hardware does in collecting, or how well calibrated the instruments are and things like that, which I really can't speak to. But as far as how we're accessing the data, as I mentioned before, the vehicles have certain parameters that are set to say, X acceleration change over time equals hard braking, and that generates an event, essentially vehicle to cloud, that's stored in a repository with all the attributes that I mentioned. And what AirSage is doing is, sourcing that data and really, processing that into insights on behalf of those that we're working with. So that's kind of the process. But as far as accuracy, or if there are bad probes, there is some possibility for that. But really, I can't speak to how common or if that is really a concern worth spending much time thinking about.
Right. I'll get a question here for quality counts for Stephen. It says, how well does QC video processing tool work with the bike and PEDs at night? Do you need to use video collected by quality counts, or can you use video collected by a client agency?
Great question. So at night, if there is some light, we can see bikes and PEDs, as you saw in that first video. If there's no light, we may not be able to see them. If there's no headlights, if there's nothing. The other part was, let's see. Do you need to use video collected? Yeah, so we don't. We've done projects for agencies where they'll collect the video, or they'll have live camera feeds, and they've got access to the camera feed. They can either give us access to the camera feed, and then we could do real-time near miss, or they they capture 24 hours of it and send it to us. We do prefer to be involved in setting up cameras, because the amount of times that once we look at what the safety problems and concerns are of the agency or the consultant, we'll decide there needs to be an extra camera, and we'll set up 4 cameras or 5 cameras. The odds that your one camera is set up in the right place, it may be high that it's not going to be sufficient. And us setting up cameras is easy. We have 14 offices across the country. We set up 1 million a day. So it's not really a big time saver to use your footage, but we've done it plenty of times and are open to it for sure.
Thank you. And the next, this one's for Chris. Could you explain level of accuracy for vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle detection, and also tracking accuracy, and how the errors may negatively impact the outputs and interpretations?
Yeah, so this one may also be for Stephen in some way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But with the vehicle data, we have GPS coordinates for the vehicles, which have a high level of horizontal precision or accuracy associated with them. So maybe not for events data, but we've done certain projects where we've taken vehicle GPS data and not only assigned it to a roadway link or a segment, but also to a lane of travel. So we have experience doing that level of precision in sort of conflation or network assignment. So I would say for the data that we're working with, we have good confidence in spatial accuracy. There obviously are some outliers and points that we probably wouldn't try to conflate in that same level of precision.
Yeah, and I'll say for us, I'll just tell you the process. So we process the video, then we have a person that'll draw the 4 gates for the different approaches, and then we have sort of V1 turning movement count. Then we QA QC it, which means we push the data through a flagging tool that identifies anomalies, and our people will watch the 5-minute windows where there's something weird, particularly high increases or decreases in volumes of a particular class for a particular movement. And so then we'll look at the balancing details if there's other intersections to balance the data off of, and that's got to line up, and then we'll count 5, 10, or 15 minutes of the video manually and compare to the AI. And if we're near perfect, then we're good. Then that leads to a high quality near miss report. And then I review every single video, every single clip, and make sure everything's working. And then we send the video, and I'll include my little comments to the degree that's wanted. Although I'm not a safety engineer. The other part is accuracy versus interpretation. So it's accurate, but what you think is a relevant near miss and what someone else thinks is different. So interpretation, we leave that up to you guys. We provide the data. We're not the engineers. You guys are. And we just try to provide the data and videos and then let you guys, do your thing.
All right. So we're a little over time, so I think we have time for maybe one more question. So this will be for Stephen. It says, can the multitude of colored line conflicts be automatically extracted and somehow compiled outside of the video?
Yes. Yeah, so there's many different ways we can show those. And so you let us know what you want to see. If you want to see the lines of only the cars turning eastbound left, for instance, that's something we can do. And we can slice and dice those in several ways. Those are views we have for our own quality control processes. So we would just screenshot and send you what you want.
Excellent. All right. So any other questions, please, be happy to, you can email us. We'll be happy to answer them offline. There's a contact us page again, so you can get Chris's and Stephen's information if you didn't previously. And that kind of wraps up our webinar. So thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate you being here and sharing, all your questions with us. Again, if you'd like to schedule a meeting with Chris or Stephen, please email them. And thank you again for coming. We hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.